All right. Welcome everyone to a very, very exciting conversation that we're going to have with a very big and tall personality in the industry in Hollywood. Leon Silverman is has wears many, many hats. He's currently, the chair at MovieLabs for one of the key forums. The founder of Hollywood Professional Association, and just his association with a host of trade bodies that are trying to do good for Hollywood and for the industry is one aspect of all his work. The other way to introduce Leon would also be as an investment banker working with startups on a host of advisory boards with his startup associations. So that's the other way. And then the third way perhaps would be just his professional career, a very rich career with Laser Pacific that was acquired eventually by Kodak. Also with Disney, a long career in post-production. And then with Netflix, I mean, there is just a ton of things to unpack, Leon, with you every time that we've met. And just roaring conversations about the state of industry, about the switch in technology, technologies that are guiding us forward. And one of the other aspects that I've always known you and respected you for is as the founder of Hollywood Professional Association, the HPA. The Tech Retreat is an iconic sort of get together for all the technologists within the Hollywood circuit. So, well, Leon, what a pleasure to have you join us today and talk to the Vitrina community.
Well, thanks, Tool. Just listening to that background makes me a little tired. Are we done now?
Yeah.
And I just want to say thanks to you as well for the light that you and Vitrina shine on the industry. It helps provide a lot of context for what's happening and the opportunities of what can happen. And so I really respect what Vitrina has done in a very short time, and in our relationship as well, where you've become an important figure in the conversation. And I'm looking forward to having this one with you.
No, likewise, Leon. I always have respected all the advice that you've given Vitrina in our very early days. You've been an incredible force behind Vitrina's rollout for a host of our solutions. One of the other aspects that I wanted to sort of also talk about was just the sheer turmoil within the industry that we've actually been through. And in those sort of times, again, conversations have really provided that spark of where things are headed. So your voice today is actually going across to the entire Vitrina community. We have more than 70,000 folks who typically tune into a host of things that we typically send out and offer to them, both in terms of our data sets, in terms of our intel, as well as the podcasts that we do with innovators and thought leaders such as yourself. So today, one of the key things that we wanted to sort of unpack is, the initiative that you're leading at MovieLabs, and maybe that could be a great place for us to start off. If you can describe some of some of those initiatives, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I want to maybe roll back and maybe provide a little bit of a context and within the context of my own career. I sometimes feel like I'm the Forrest Gump of the media entertainment technology community. I'm celebrating almost 50 years in our business. And as I look at my own career, it really kind of traces these great technological transitions that we have made and are making and bring us to where we are today. So if you think about our industry, this amazing media creation industry still has one foot in a 100-year-old technology, the most elegant technology of the 20th century. Film had just an amazing impact, but we still have one foot in that 100-year-old technology. Even in our digital cinema packages, our DCPs are still in film reels, and so that 100-year-old technology with one foot and another foot in the now more than 50-year-old digital technology. And every time I say that, it's really surprising to me that the digital world is 50 years old. But in our industry, as I looked at that transition that we made from film to digital in the late 70s and early 80s, and that transition that we made to nonlinear editing and the technologies of things like DVD and the beginnings of digital cinema, digital cinematography, and HD and HDR, and all those technologies of the last 30, 40 years. Uh, that mashup of the film and digital worlds created a lot of options and a lot of chaos as well. And because we essentially began plugging these really cool new digital tools and the beginning of the 80s and 90s into these analog workflows. Because we've been making film for 100 years, and then all of a sudden there's a digital camera, plugged it in front of a workflow, and now there's another digital process kind of plug it into an analog process. And we essentially created a lot of ways to create content, a lot of ways to do a workflow. In fact, there was a time when I was looking at workflows that were so complicated and everyone was different that I coined a phrase that's still in use today, this thing called snowflake workflows. And what happened was that we were so excited playing with all these toys that while we thought about that notion of the digital world that we call plug and play, well, it never really did. Plug and play was something we talked about, but were never able to accomplish because these tools just showed up and we started using them, and with not a whole lot of thought about how they plug in together, but really smart people in our industry always figured out how to make it work. But we made it work through complexity, through a whole lot of muscle memory. But now we're at a place in history. We're a place in our industry where we know that what got us here won't get us there. Um, if you think about just content creation today writ large, how we move files around and how we work around tools, and how we really need a whole lot of experts to make things happen. We're at this place where we know that the amount of media being made today, while it may not be the peak content of a few years ago, we're about to hit steady state. And we also know that there's a mandate to make media in a more effective, both cost effective and time effective way. And if we're able to take advantage of some of the technology that is in front of us, I think the industry has a much easier way to move into a future that is not as encumbered as we have in the past by complexity, waste, mundane tasks that don't need to be accomplished, where we really can take advantage of the promise of the digital world. And so when you think about what the impact of the MovieLabs vision was, I think you need to kind of roll back to 5 years ago or 6 years ago when the vision was being articulated. At that time, the CTOs of the major studios realized that with the amount and the type of media that was being produced for the types of distribution outlets that was being produced for, that the current media supply chain really couldn't meet that need, that something had to change, that there really need to be more efficient, more effective, more interoperable tools, workflows, and infrastructures. And so what was interesting to me about that time that the CTOs of the studios got together to articulate what became known as the MovieLabs 2030 vision was it was a time of great turmoil and disagreement across the studios. They were arguing about a whole bunch of digital distribution formats, arguing about how to do HDR, how to do a whole bunch of things where they were not aligned. But somehow the CTOs of the major studios 5 years ago, who probably couldn't agree on where to go to lunch together, agreed on this expansive 10-year vision of the future.
Actually, Leon, if I can just maybe pop in one question, which was that, you've actually seen a host of different cycles in your career. just in terms of how that technology has matured, right from the analog days to digital, and now with streaming and just a host of automation that's also about to enter the workflows. In the past, how have those standards appeared? Is it largely because major studios actually just adopted those and those then settled down, or was that
Yeah.
led by some of these technology companies, and then whichever technology company won that particular race, they became the standard?
I think technology changes for a number of reasons, but I don't think there's a way to force technological change. Especially in our industry, I think there needs to be consensus, collaboration, an understanding of where the benefits are. And
Right.
a good example, and I worked for Kodak during the era where digital intermediates, digital cinematography, and that kind of new at that time workflow that ended film in a digital way that created then the ability to distribute digital instead of film. At that time, there was a great deal of concern about the impact of technology, about lowering standards, about not understanding the needs of the creative community. And I think what made that technology, and almost all technology, is this collaborative conversation between the technology and creative community around impact and benefits. And I think we're there again. The cinematography and the community, the directors who are directing movies that were going to be distributed digitally, in those early days were concerned that the technology wouldn't meet their needs. But through demonstrations, through discussion, through collaboration, um, we're able to work together to continually uh, hone our message, hone our tech, and to come together as an industry to understand how something can benefit the community. And I think we're there again because technology for technology's sake is interesting to technologists.
Right.
But we're at a place in our industry where, again, I think there is a consensus that we know that in order to really fulfill the promise of both the mandate to create quality media effectively that can travel the globe, that the cost, the complexity needs to be mitigated so that we can meet those mandates and also
Right.
do something else as well, which is allow the creative community to use tools that don't get in their way, that just allow them to create. And I think we're at that place right now. And I think part of what we're trying to do with the MovieLabs 2030 vision is to move from that place where technologists talk about this great next generation media creation ecosystem and really bring it down to what does it mean to creators to get mundane tasks out of the way so that tools really work together. What does it mean to creators to have a choice and to be able to have options to work anywhere with any tool in the way they want to work, to really enable snowflake workflows that work more seamlessly and securely. So I think coming to technology in a just a geeky engineering sense, I love it. I think we love to talk about tech,
Yeah.
but it's really about the benefits and the impact of tech on the folks who use it that I think is the conversation that we need to have today.
Understood. Understood. And then the other curiosity I had was, and I'm sure a host of folks who are listening to us, was when in 2020 the Movie Labs 2030 vision was actually sort of proposed and agreed on. What were the trigger points that got the industry to sort of try and achieve that consensus? Was it streaming? Was it change in workflows? Was it to also track the work and where that work was happening? What describe a little bit about what the key motivations were.
So the context. So in 2015, 2016, I was at Disney, and we were beginning to have some thoughts that this thing called the cloud would have an impact in our industry. And of course, it made sense because if you think about it, every industry on the planet has had their own cloud journeys. And we shop online, we bank online, we connect with each other online. Almost every other industry globally have created business models for scale and effectiveness by moving their businesses to the cloud. So the notion of that the cloud was something that would impact the media industry is natural as well. So that was part of the context of what can we do when workflows move to the cloud around collaboration, around security, around centralization and efficiency. So in 2015, we were beginning to think about the cloud. In 2019, the studios got together and began writing and releasing the vision. The vision was released publicly and introduced at IBC 2019. A few months later, and people have been thinking about the cloud. A few months later, something important happened around the world. The most devastating impact globally because the world became engulfed in a pandemic. And so this notion of, that's it, that cloud is an interesting concept became, maybe that's the only way. And so that MovieLabs vision, which when it came out, really resonated. In fact, I was at Netflix when the vision came out, and the folks from MovieLabs visited me at Netflix. I had read the vision before the meeting, and I was blown away because of the work that we had been doing at Disney earlier, and the work that I was doing at the time. I read that vision. I say, I suffered from that vision. And so when it was articulated at that time, as well written as it was, people across the world really opened their eyes and said, this is something really cool. This is very aspirational. This is the future. But then the pandemic hit, and it was like, ooh, maybe this is a way where we can begin to understand how to resume work. And in fact, without some of the ideas that were outlined in the 2030 vision, the industry really could not have done what it did so quickly, which is kind of to MacGyver its way to production again through work in the cloud. So the context of that time was, here's some really interesting kind of future-facing ideas. They resonated, they're exciting, and then all of a sudden we got a real life POC through the pandemic, which began to really demonstrate that these were not just aspirational ideas. These were the way that we can create more effective media today and in the future.
That is so true. Actually, during COVID-19 and the pandemic, there was a big push towards remote workflows. Everything actually per force moved into the cloud. Even aspects within the workflow that were not earlier, in the cloud, actually had to move in the cloud. So you absolutely, I think there was definitely a forcing function as well. For a lot of folks who need a little bit of inspiration. That's right. And then, how has the overall? I mean, we are exactly at the midway point between 2020 and 2030 in 2025, and how do you see the current movement? In terms of the progress that's been achieved.
Well, I think we're at this place, and I want to talk about it more in depth, where the industry and the world's coming together in a more formal way around implementation. 5 years in, we now know that there's a lot of mind share, that the vision has resonated throughout the industry, and in fact throughout the world. And we're beginning to see implementation journeys. And maybe one of the things that I can do is I prepared some information about MovieLabs, the vision, some of these principles, the work we're doing, and the work that the industry is doing. And maybe that's a way to illustrate kind of where we are right now. And
Yeah.
in one of the most important words of the pandemic, I'll utter this phrase. Let's see. Can you see my screen? That is right. That was we learned that word. Can
That's
you
right.
see my screen? So, all right.
Yes, we can. Yes, we
Thanks,
can.
Abdul. Okay, so I just like to start just by talking a bit of, just for context, who Movie Labs is, who our members are, what our mission is, some of the areas that we're focused on, and again, how we're engaging with the industry. I think that's a way to answer some of these questions. So fundamentally, Movie Labs is a nonprofit joint venture. We're owned by the five major studios. But the real mission that Movie Labs has is not it's not really the 2030 vision is what it is now, but in the past, the idea for Movie Labs is to tackle common industry work that benefits the industry, and maybe not just the studios, the entire industry. It's work that not one company can or should tackle on their own. In the past, a few Movie Labs initiatives are things like defining specifications in HDR. Anti-piracy and content production standards, a digital distribution, a solution called the Movie Labs digital distribution framework, which creates specifications for content delivery and metadata. There's other initiatives that you may know, such as the Entertainment Identification Registry, something called IDER. IDER provides a unique identification for virtually every film and television show on Earth, certainly everyone that's in the supply chain, because that's how they're identified. But of course, a lot of, as we talked about, a lot of people know Movie Labs through that 2019 white paper that actually was originally called The Evolution of Media Creation. And there's this notion of a 10-year vision for the future of media, post, and creative technology. And since the paper was released at the end of 2019, that 10-year horizon kind of became known as the 2030 vision. But I think it's important to say that the 2030 vision it's not a target date. It's not an expiration date. It's not a perishable by date. It just was a time frame long enough that allowed the original authors of the vision to not be kind of inhibited by short-term thinking. They were able to take kind of this long view, and I think what's important about the date is that that if anything, it provides a really good focus for the industry. There's companies all over the world using these 10 foundational principles of the 2030 vision as kind of their own North Star. There are a number of companies all over the world that are implementing these 10 principles as kind of their engineering technology roadmap. And so while I don't want to drain them all, I'd love to kind of talk about the 10 principles of the 2030 vision at a kind of high level. They fall into what you might think of as three major categories. Cloud foundations, what does it take to work in the cloud? Security and identity, software-defined workflows. And while there's not one of these principles around the notion of interoperability, ultimately, that's really what all this is about how tools and workflows and infrastructures can work more seamlessly and securely together. So I want to just talk about them in these these groups. The first five principles lay the foundation for work in the cloud. And I think it's important to talk here about what Movie Labs means when we say the word cloud.
Hmm.
Cloud to us is really about connected, shared infrastructure for storage and compute. It can be provided by one of the large public companies referred to as hyperscalers, companies like AWS and Microsoft and Google, or a cloud can also be an on-premise installation of shared storage and compute, or it can be a combination of public and private on-prem, which are also referred to as these notions of hybrid infrastructures. And so when you think about the cloud, the first foundational principle states that all assets go to the cloud and are not moved. Today, workflows are really complex. They're really messy. They're really wasteful. We spend a lot of time in current workflows making files, moving files, copying files so we can move them to the next stage of the workflow. So the notion is everything goes to the cloud and stays there. That second principle states that, the stuff you do to the assets come to the media. So instead of moving all this stuff around, the apps go to where the media is. And this is super hard to do. It definitely, for many, is aspirational, and there's some elements of this that will always need to move certain things around, maybe across clouds for performance reasons or to cache things at the edge. But the idea is if you can keep things where they are and move applications to them, it'll be a whole lot more effective. And so there are a number of efforts underway to deliver tools that do move apps to assets, and we're seeing that happen within our MovieLabs larger global community. Principle 3 is about, instead of making another copy when something needs to be seen or something needs to be distributed, that distribution is more of a publish function, making it available, sending a link, and then doing your work instead of sending it or making it or rendering it, sending a link to the next folks in the chain, or sending a link to the same media so that people can work on it simultaneously instead of making, copying, and moving files. Principles 4 and 5 are about archive, when all assets are now in the cloud and don't move. Your archive is already in place, and then all you need to do is apply some policies to the assets that say, hey, this asset is an archived asset. Here, are the people or the departments or the functions that can access it? Here are the conditions under which it can be accessed and the things that can be done to it. And of course, it's important in Principle 5 to be able to store assets and to be able to access them in the long term, in the future, like we can with film, can last 100 years. There's a blog series on our website about archive. We have our own set of archive principles, and if you're interested in archive, love you to read it. And this is a discussion that we're really interested to have with the industry. Principles 6 and 7 are focused on a new approach, a next generation approach to security, which is important because in this cloud-based world, we have collaborators that are working across multiple projects, working across a shared infrastructure. They're working across tools that can no longer really be neatly protected by a security guard and some cameras. So Principle 6 is about how to authenticate and authorize permissions for people across tools and workflows. Principle 7 is about this need for this new approach to security. We've published a 5-part architecture that outlines this approach to security called CESAP, Common Security Architecture for Production. This architecture is based on the cybersecurity concept called zero trust. And zero trust is something that the media supply chain is going to be hearing a lot about very soon, because TPN, Trusted Partner Network, part of MPA, which audits media supply chain companies, will be asking questions about zero trust in their next set of audits, because this zero trust and the CSAP is kind of this next path to security in these new sort of infrastructures. And finally, this notion of software-defined workflows probably need a bit of definition themselves. This is about enabling workflows that are flexible, adaptable, interoperable, where automation can get rid of tasks that no one needs to do and literally connect tools to each other. Principle 8 speaks to how using links to an asset creates an unambiguous way to identify them and also use them without having to know where they really are. Links are also a way to find assets associated with other assets. So for instance, an image file from a camera can be linked to the metadata of what might be in that file, linked to where it might be in the larger work, linked to where it might be in a visual effects shot or a trailer. The ability to really create connection and relationships between assets for effectiveness. Principle 9 speaks to how using common interfaces like APIs and common data formats like our ontology for media creation can kind of serve as Legos, kind of standard building blocks so that workflows can more seamlessly integrate. This makes it so much easier for tools to exchange assets and metadata and for tools to plug into workflows easier and in more standard ways. And I'll talk a bit about what that does with what ontology really means and does in just a bit as well. And then principle 10 speaks to how the cloud enables real-time iteration. Think about the real-time game engines that can provide assets in virtual production that would have normally taken days or weeks in the visual effects workflow. Think about how Gen AI tools can deliver results in real time. And of course, your homework assignment for the folks watching, if you haven't read The Vision, you should. And if you haven't read it in a while, I think folks would be really surprised about how prescient it is, about how we were talking about things like AI 5 years ago. In fact, this quote is really interesting. It says that rather than predict where artificial intelligence will have the biggest impact in the production and distribution of media, we're focused on creating an environment that enables these AI tools to work most effectively. I think this quote, I think it really says it all about where we are with the vision, which is really about laying the foundation for this next generation media creation systems that is, I like to say, that can be collaboratively and deliberately designed. The industry is coming together to do this, to enable tools to work better with other tools, for workflows to work better with other workflows, with infrastructures to work better with other infrastructures, and for tools and workflows and infrastructures to all work better together and to truly realize the promise of that digital age, that plug and play for work that really does flow. That's what the 2030 vision is all about. It's all about just getting all the stuff that stands in the way out of the way and building this industry environment that lets creators create with whatever tools they want to use, with whomever and wherever they want to work, all seamlessly and secure. We've written a whole lot of additional white papers. We like to say that double click and go deeper into topics like security and workflows, interoperability, and a call to action to our industry's leaders, the urgent memo to the C-suite to prepare for the future around this notion that the industry is so aligned around. These papers go deep into these topics. They also articulate a number of additional principles of what it takes to enable this future. QR code will take you there. And I know I brought up this topic of ontology, which is pretty obscure to a lot of people. So I just want to briefly kind of flash this up just to set the stage. And ontology is just a set of concepts and categories in a specific domain, specific area, in this case, in media creation, that shows properties and relationships between them. I think what's important to note about our MovieLabs ontology is it describes a pretty unique world. It's this world of the script and the story, what you think of as the narrative. And then there's this other world, this real world of the world in which we make movies, of the production, so that we create connections between things like, okay, the location is Mars, but the scene was shot in New Jersey. There's an actor that plays the lead, but there's a CG model as well. There's a stunt double. There's a hand double. There's an action figure. They're all the same character. The ontology can be used in a graph database. So This is one of those things, this common data model that literally connects dots in workflows. And if you want to know more, there's full documentation site there. You can get pretty deep into ontology. In fact, we have JSON code that you can deploy in your own tools, because again, everything MovieLabs does is open standards. If you hit our website, you find a lot of specifications. They're part of our contribution to the industry. And on that site, there's a whole bunch more as well. There's blog series. They provide super high-level explainers for folks who aren't into the engineering weeds. They explain the concepts, the focus areas for MovieLabs. Our fireside chat series are really interesting interviews with industry leaders, senior leaders from Amazon and Adobe, Avid, and from other companies. And they talk about their own journey and how they're leading their own companies to implement the 2030 vision. So if you go to the website, there are video explainers almost in every section. We have a lot of resources for the industry because there really is a lot of momentum towards implementation. The industry is actively implementing the 2030 vision, so we want to support them, which is why we launched this new MovieLabs Industry Forum. The forum is where global companies, big and small, are coming together to share their own experiences, their own implementation journeys on the road to 2030. We just launched the forum at the beginning of the year. And already we have this huge growing global community. We have members from the US, from Canada, from United Kingdom, from France, Germany, Spain, New Zealand, India, Japan. We represent companies that serve production, image and sound post-production, visual effects, collaboration, broadcast, live to cloud services. We've got system integrators, security domain experts. We've got media asset management tools. We have storage collaborators and software that serves across all these end-to-end workflows. And if your company is committed to implementing aspects of the vision, we invite you to join us. QR code on the screen. And here, this is really what we're really all about. We've been doing all of this engineering work over the past 5 years in the name of the creative community. Our 2030 Greenlight initiative is about demonstrating the benefits of the 2030 vision. We're doing this by working together with both forum members and a bunch of industry players to demonstrate how these tools, how these workflows that work together better in this more 2030 way provides benefit. Our first Greenlight demonstration was this year at the HPA Tech Retreat. We demonstrated how a change in the script during production, which today causes all hell to break loose. But in this demonstration, we watch how a change in the script, which is propagated through the script itself, through workflow tools, including AI, teaching AI how to do concept art, really begin to demonstrate how the 2030 vision can make workflows more effective. It's all about proving by doing. Response to the HPA demonstration has been overwhelming because I think when folks can really see benefits, they get it. Next up, we're doing a number of what we call scenarios to show, for instance, how a reshoot and changes in sound and post that can impact editorial and visual effects, and marketing can be streamlined through interoperability. So this 2030 Greenlight is going to be the way that we come to the industry to show creative people how this vision of the future is not just a vision, but really applies to real work, to real tools that exist today. So thanks. I'm just super excited. There's a ton of industry momentum. There's a ton of work that's being done to implement the vision, and just I appreciate the opportunity to talk about it. For the folks listening, if it resonates with you, we'd love to have your voice across our table. Atul, thanks for letting me talk a bit about what I'm excited about with MovieLabs 2030 vision, which is something that the industry is not only adopting, but really is the way that we are going to be able to think about next generation content writ large. And I think it's way beyond film and television. In fact, if you think about the folks in the forum and some of the feedback that we're getting, we're seeing that next generation creators are using the cloud in new sort of ways as well. And so um, it's an exciting time to be in our industry. It's a fraught time to be in our industry, but I have great optimism about where we're going.
That was great actually. The presentation really threw light on a host of sort of aspects about the Movie Labs 2030 vision. In fact, you actually preempted all my questions, Leon. You covered actually a host of questions relating to what it is, how is it executed, what are the nuts and bolts of the vision. I want to sort of double click on a couple of aspects. One was you talked about the documentation that already exists on the website. You also talked about the JSON sort of structure as well as the ontology. If you can maybe talk a little bit about how detailed are some of these documents, and how can they be repurposed for use in certain organizations straight away.
So, if you go to the website, there's a couple parts of the ontology site. There's a very deep documentation on the site of the ontology itself, how it's used, and there's access to a GitHub as well for the JSON code. And we're beginning to see OMC, Ontology for Media Creation, being implemented in shipping tools. And of course, if there are folks who utilize Ontology in their tools who are watching and listening today, feel free to go look at that site and use any of that information, and also to reach out to us. We're super interested in supporting and beginning conversations with any organization looking to use the ontology.
Understood. And then the other aspect was that in some of the forums that that you talked about, that was a very impressive list of countries and companies and different types of companies that are associated already. The one question which came to mind was what kind of leadership comes in? Is it on are these the technologists? Are these folks from the creative side? Uh, in a host of the Movie Labs forum, what kind of folks are you sort of seeing, being the representatives of their companies?
So across all of the organizations that are part of the forum, we're seeing obviously the strategy folks, the leadership is in support. We're so happy to see senior leaders, CEOs of major companies not only lean in but actively encourage their teams. We're seeing active implementation efforts through engineering teams, but also marketing teams are playing because this conversation, while it's technical, really is about rebuilding and remaking the industry for its future. And so anybody involved in media creation today are interested in this conversation, and increasingly the one that we really want to have is with our beneficiaries, our creative community. One of the members of the forum is United Talent Agency, who represents a deep roster of creative and technical talent, and engaging discussions with companies like UTA and with the companies who provide the tools and the resources for creators to create, brings the synergy in the room together where we're having the conversation together. So we're really actually enthused by how much participation across the companies we're having today, because it's not just the technical participants, but it's resonating across anybody today who needs to create something, distribute something, serve something, or kind of understand where we are. Because while the industry has gone through some interesting challenges through pandemics and strikes and production uncertainty, we're now at this place where I think we can see steady state. We got some interesting news today from our friend Chuck Parker at SohoNet, who also industry forum member who tracks industry trends. And we're beginning to see our industry come to a steady state of production, which is global. And the more global production that is happening, that's in these middle tier budgets, it means that we need to pay attention to both where we're making stuff, how we're making stuff, and how to do it more cost effectively. And that's not about making things cheaper. It's about how to put more on the screen, how to add more quality by if we can save 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% by being efficient, that's a lot of money. If we can hand a time back the creative process, that's powerful. Every time that I've been involved with technology that impacts creativity, to me, I know that they do one thing. They're kind of like time machines. If you can hand a time machine to a creative person, they may or may not save a whole bunch of money, but they're going to put more creativity into their project. And I think right now, the ability to just squeeze out things that we don't need to do, the excessive file movement, all these copies, all these serial work where we hurry up and wait. If we can streamline this and we hand time back the creative community and create a next generation ecosystem that enables next generation tools where we can understand how we can respectfully, ethically deploy things like AI tool sets, we really hand the creative community a new enhanced palette for creativity. Because to me, that's what the technology really does. It unleashes new ways to tell stories. And ultimately, that's all we're trying to do is hand a set of tools to our creators and get out of their way so they can show us things that we've never seen before because we've enabled creativity through efficiency and the power of some of what this technology can do.
That's right. That's right. One of the things that when we were last speaking that you referenced were a couple of very interesting and successful case studies where just being in the room with a host of other companies talking about how they are actually executing on the 2030 vision was changing the roadmap for certain products and certain technologies. I don't know if you have a couple of sort of case studies to talk about where that's
Well,
beginning to
yeah.
happen.
So we see a lot of that. Obviously, Movie Labs puts out a call for case studies on an ongoing basis. In fact, a couple years ago, we put out a call for case studies for the first time, and we were blown away. 40, 50 companies responded that how they were using and implementing the 2030 vision. Companies that we had never heard of, companies beyond film and television. The Royal Opera House in London was using the principles of the 2030 vision. And in fact, the power of the community coming together, the power of what we're doing in the forum and in these public demonstrations and these public conversations are around the sharing of these journeys. What blows me away today is how generous uh, the people in our industry are around sharing their knowledge. I think everybody's kind of, I've spent my career running to the edge of the next new thing. And when you're at the edge of the next new thing, a lot of people are at their edge of their knowledge as well. But I'm seeing the generosity of knowledge sharing, experience sharing, where the building of an interoperable common industry platform is not competitive. Paving the road is not competitive. Um, you know, uh, Pave the road and then do competitive things on top of the road. And so in these forums, in these working groups, what we're seeing are companies generously sharing where they are, their challenges. We're really big on finding and understanding gaps. This year, we're going to be rolling out what we call our 2030 assessment, first to our forum members, then to the industry at large, where a company can understand how 2030 are you? And begin to assess where they are on their own journeys. And by sharing those assessments, by sharing where we are, by identifying a gap, We have forum members who just love to see our gap documents. Where are your gaps? And we have got a number of folks who think it's their mission in life to fill those gaps. And can I get a bonus if I fill some gaps? And in fact, it's happening. And so by virtue of the generosity, by virtue of the sharing, by virtue of creating the forum, by virtue of having this as an open way to have this dialogue, others are seeing, oh yeah, that's an area that I think I can make some progress. Um, and what happens is that we get to move by virtue of the fastest mover, especially if they share, and that, in fact, is happening.
Fascinating. So that's really exciting. The gap analysis that help a company decide how 2030 are they is an exciting development. Is there a certification or a compliance aspect to
No,
2030?
no, no. We don't certify. We don't comply. We applaud. We applaud the progress, and we're seeing lots of it. Obviously, there are standards that many organizations publish. Ours will be open, and so using our documentations, using our specifications, using that code is open to the industry. And assessments are being done by independent companies around things in security, but MovieLabs is not around certification. It's around a kind of motivation.
Got it. Understood. And then uh, just in so you actually covered the types of companies that are getting associated, also the markets from which these companies come from, and you listed down a host of markets where they are sort of headquartered and coming from. How do some of the listeners today, if they want their companies to actually sort of join the forum, how should they go about it?
Yep. I'll flash that on the screen again. Let's. So a QR code will take you to a place where you can learn more about the forum.
Great.
It's a membership organization. We don't take individuals at this point. We're really looking at companies, and we're looking at companies who are really committed to this implementation. So if you are and you're not a member of the forum, consider joining and reach out to me specifically if you have any questions. And continue to challenge us and continue to really lean into this notion that while the industry is going through significant change, that there's really a way to get to the future in a way where the tools, the infrastructure, the workflows can be more effective, more efficient, all for only one reason: to hand to the creative community tools that allow them to tell stories. Because ultimately, that's what we're doing. We're helping people tell stories in better and new ways.
Fascinating, fascinating. That was super inspiring and very helpful, Leon. Just to understand the 2030 vision, the way it came about, the way it's actually sort of progressing, and then also the participation of a host of companies where if they actually sort of employ that 2030 vision in their product roadmaps, in their software design, it actually makes for better sort of integration with future content and future content workflows. Thank you so much for actually sort of taking us through that journey and through all of the resources that Movie Labs has relating to this entire initiative.
And thanks for the opportunity to have the conversation, Atul. And I look forward to watching the Vitrina help the industry understand where it's going. And I look forward to helping the industry get there.
Thank you very much.
Take care.